Anyone who constantly experiences back pain wonders if they have a hernia, and there are several signs to determine whether the pain you are experiencing is caused by a hernia or not. The first sign is the nature of the pain. Pain from a spinal hernia is non-localized, unlike pain in the lower back caused, for example, by muscle spasm or joint problems between the vertebrae. It follows the course of the nerve. That is, for example, if you have a hernia in the disc between the fourth and fifth lumbar vertebrae, the pain will go along the side surface of the leg. If the hernia is between the fifth lumbar and the first sacral, the pain will go along the back surface of the leg. But the same pain can also be with the piriformis syndrome, when the sciatic nerve is compressed. Generally, pain nature is the initial sign. It's not localized. It specifically radiates to the leg or along the side of the leg, or the back, or sometimes forward. The second sign, also related to pain, is the nature of the pain. Most often it is not associated with movement, but occurs at rest. And it can occur at night, because when you stay in one position for a long time, venous stasis occurs because the muscles do not work when you sleep at night. And there is a pinching of the nerve from the edema. Because of this, people with sufficiently large hernias, more than 0.276 inches, they can wake up from pain in the second half of the night when the edema increases. The third sign is numbness. Numbness, too. It will go along the path depending on which nerve is pinched, depending on which level the hernia is. This feeling of numbness, it will repeat the place where the nerve goes, which is generally pinched. There it will become numb. Well, the same thing here L5 zone between the fifth lumbar and the first sacral. Numbness will go along the back surface of the leg. Here's how to distinguish numbness caused by a spinal hernia from numbness. For example, sometimes it happens that the nerve is pinched at some other level. Most often with a spinal hernia, numbness goes straight along the same path, straight along the entire leg. If it numbs separately, for example, the big toe, it is usually not associated with a hernia. It is associated with the fact that the nerve is pinched right on the foot itself. Most often, it is the tarsal bone that shifts. So that was, in general, the third sign. This is numbness. And unlike numbness, which could, for example, occur when you slept in an uncomfortable position or sat in an uncomfortable position, the nerve is also pinched. You then change your position, walked around, and this feeling disappears. Unlike this, here the nerve is constantly compressed by this protruding, damaged disc, and therefore this feeling is constant. The fourth sign is weakness in the muscles. Initially, it manifests itself during movement, compared to a healthy leg. A person feels that it is weaker for him, also depending on the location of the hernia. But often this weakness begins to be felt by a person in the foot. His foot begins to bend poorly, and initially this is manifested only under prolonged loads. That is, he walks for a long time. A person begins to feel that he begins to limp, due to the fact that one foot bends poorly, or somehow changes his gait to put his foot forward. To make a step during a walk, it can even be that with prolonged compression of the nerve, it can develop practically, well, this is a cut. Paralysis of these muscles that the foot just hangs like this and no longer works. This is when the nerve dies. The impulse does not reach the muscle. That is, the feeling of this weakness of the muscle. It develops precisely because the impulse from the brain, you want to move your foot, you give a signal to the foot to go forward. And the impulse, this is along the spinal cord, because the hernia is compressed. This nerve does not reach the muscle, and therefore the muscle cannot contract. No matter how much you want it, it cannot contract because the impulse does not get there. The longer the nerve compression is maintained, the more severely it is damaged. The nerve nutrition is disrupted due to the fact that the vessels that feed the nerves, which are located in its sheath, are compressed, and to the point that it can completely die and the foot will hang, and never again. This should not be allowed. And the next sign is the most distant in such cases, or with large hernias, when they develop immediately there with injuries, these are pelvic disorders. This can be urinary incontinence. This can be erectile dysfunction. Also, all as a result of the fact that innervation is disrupted. That is, all the regulations of these organs' functions. Unlike when you want to move your foot, you move it consciously, but the regulation of the functions of the pelvic organs, it is also all regulated by the brain, but regardless of your consciousness. All this happens autonomously. It is controlled by the vegetative nervous system, but it is also somehow all under control. That is, the bladder is tense at times, relaxed at times, so that nothing extra comes out of there. And because the regulation of all this is disrupted, it all becomes somewhat uncontrollable. Here, these are the signs by which you can suspect a bite. That is, if there are any of these disorders, then you already need, well, first of all, to see a doctor, and secondly, to undergo an examination, which will definitely confirm whether you have a hernia, determines its size. And in the next video, we will talk specifically about research methods, what methods need to be done, what an X-ray shows, what the advantage is, what a CT scan and a magnetic resonance imaging show, and which of these methods should be used to accurately determine whether there is a hernia and where it is. That's all.